2024 introduced the 12th member of the billion-dollar animated movie club with Inside Out 2. It's also the most successful animated film of all time. With that being said, we are going to have a look at all of these animated films that have made $1 billion and rank them in tier list form. Couldn't find a template with just the animated ones. These are all of the movies that have made $1 billion in general that you're looking at, but I'm not going to do all of them, just animated ones today. These are for another video. With that being said, we are going to start with Finding Dory in B tier. We'll put C/D tier for this one as we don't have a D tier today. My opinion, Finding Dory is one of the most beautiful animated films to look at that I've ever seen. The water looks the best in any animation to date, in my opinion. Wow, it is breathtaking, but the plot is not. As such, I didn't find it as captivating as the first Finding film. Finding Nemo has so much more of a family dynamic with at the heart of the story, I would say, in my opinion. And Dory is a comic relief character, obviously in the first Finding film, and thus being put into the protagonist role lends itself to a few annoying moments, in my opinion, like Cars 2, even though Cars 2 made nowhere near $1 billion. So for me, I'm going to put Finding Dory B tier. It's fine. It's one that I revisit every now and then, but not as good as the first one, in my opinion. Then we have Frozen 2. I feel like Frozen 2 is a lot of the same things that I just said, truthfully. This is a film where Elsa goes out on a journey of self-discovery. For me, I didn't find that the villain, because he was posthumous in the film, it didn't have as much of a sense of, there's really trouble on the horizon as the first for me. And with that being said, the songs aren't as impressive either. Although it is just as visually stunning, it's much more of a forgettable film than its previous edition. So for me, I'm going to put Frozen in B tier. Despicable Me 3, I've been waiting a couple of movies to rank this one, but I got to put it in probably D tier is where it would go. I'm the most surprised, I think, out of all of these films, maybe even all of these films that are even not animated, that this made $1 billion, truthfully. I have seen it, of course, and admittedly had to do a fair amount of research to remind myself of the plot of this film. Gru gets fired from the Anti-Villain League and has to go. He wants to have a bit of a quiet life after that, and then he goes out to meet his brother and his twin, actually, and they go on an adventure to take down this villain who was like a former TV star. I don't know. For me, it's not as good as the first. Truthfully, every film after the first kind of runs together. So I would put Despicable Me 3 in D tier, and it's likely comfortably the last place film in definitely today's video of the animated $1 billion. Frozen's got to go into A. You know what? Frozen's going to go into S tier. It's one that is going to continue to be in the pop culture zeitgeist for quite a long time. At the same time, it's a film that can be appreciated by the smallest of kids to older adults for me. The family story of Anna and Elsa, you see them growing up and then have to mature into leaders of this kingdom because of their parents not being there anymore, obviously. And thus, it's a captivating film that is very satisfying throughout. Many of the songs are very, very popular for good reason, as they're catchy. At the same time, the only thing that I could probably knock this film for is the twist villain at the end. It seemed a bit too forced to me. He went from being the nicest guy. I think his name was Hans, but I'm not 100% sure. But he went from being the nicest guy in the film to being the most evil of evil. And I guess you're saying that's the point. But for me, it didn't really sit that well in terms of twist villains as far as that goes. So I'll put it. It could go A, but just because of how important the film is to animation and its success, I'll put it S tier. It's going to be around for quite a while. Then we will do The Lion King, 2019's Lion King. For me, it's probably not going to be any higher than B tier. That's only because it's essentially a retelling word for word carbon copy of the original animated film in the 90s. And so it doesn't leave you feeling really satisfied after watching it unless you're a massive fan of that story and are okay with not watching it in its greatest form, in my opinion. The animated film in the 90s leaves you much more satisfied than this one. While it is a cinematic achievement in terms of how beautiful they were able to make the CGI and the story look, I would prefer going to the original, as it just feels like it has more soul and more heart into the film. For me, that's what I would prefer, and thus, since it's not really doing anything, new to the story, how could you do something new to Shakespeare's Hamlet at the same time? But for me, it's going to go B tier. It's not as good as the original. I likely will not rewatch it again. And then we have the Super Mario Brothers movie. So I'm a huge Nintendo fan, massive. And at the same time, I love all of the extreme deep cut Easter eggs and references in this film. I like how it looks as well. The animation is beautiful. From Illumination, arguably some of their best work. But at the same time, the plot is where it kind of starts to run thin for me. I have a hard time recalling what the plot of this film was. And for those reasons, it's probably going to go into the top of B tier for me. Truthfully, I could knock Frozen down just because of the twist villain, but we'll keep it S for now. Toy Story 3, top of S tier. It's as good of a film as you can make in terms of the ending of a trilogy. I saw this clip actually last night of Quentin Tarantino talking about how Toy Story 3 was the just most perfect storybook, bookend to the trilogy that they had told to that point. And he was so upset that they announced a fourth film. It was like, I'm not going to watch it. Quentin, I can't blame you in the slightest because of how good this ending was for this story. Wow. You see Andy grow up and pass his toys on to the next generation as he goes off to college. As the toys see him go, they learn to accept it and are happy with their new life, giving more joy to the next generation. It is phenomenal. I could go on about Toy Story 3 for quite a while, but I will not. And thus, it's going to stay at S tier and the top of S tier. Toy Story 4, the movie that Tarantino refuses to see. It's good. Yes. Is it necessary? No, it's not, truthfully. I get it that movies need to be, they need to be successful, they need to be profitable, but I do like Gabby Gabby as well. The villain is nuanced. I like Keanu Reeves' Duke Kaboom character, Jordan Peele with Ducky and Bunny, I believe. They're very funny in it as well. They did a good job in terms of making it funny, but funny doesn't necessarily equate to as emotionally impactful of a story. It all comes back to Woody figuring out what he wants to do now that he's not the most important toy in the child's life anymore, and thus that's not as interesting of a story as what some of the beats were in 1, 2, and 3. So it can't go any higher than A tier for me. We'll see what happens with Toy Story 5. Hopefully it is going to be good, but I'm not optimistic. That's where we'll put Incredibles 2 as well in A tier. Very good. The animation, again, almost synonymous with all of these films here in this list. That it looks great. Mrs. Incredible, her action scenes are riveting to watch, truly. The train chase was phenomenal. The Incredibile as well, really cool. The family dynamic is not there as much in this film as they're not thrown into a situation altogether till the very end. I guess that's the same as the first film, though, isn't it? That's the same as the first film, but Syndrome is a much better villain than the Screenslaver to me, and the Jack bits were funny, his family figuring out that he has powers, but I just can't find this film to be as memorable to me as the first. And for those reasons, it's going to go into A tier, not S tier. Final three here. This is an amazing movie, a pretty good movie, and a not so good movie left. Minions. We'll talk about Minions first. Admittedly, I did not think that this is a film that is terrible, but at the same time, it's not great. It's probably going to go at the bottom of B tier. Truthfully, I wish I had another tier to put these in separate ones, because Minions is better than Despicable Me 3. How Minions ends, I remember very vividly and grew as a kid, taking over and the minions, being fascinated by him and following him. The ending was good. So is the intro as well. Seeing them evolve from a cell, the minions evolve from literally a cell to a community was pretty entertaining, truthfully. I have to give Minions its flowers and say that it's going to go into B tier. It's pretty entertaining. Will I rewatch it in the next couple of years? Probably not. But when I have children, when and if I have children, then they want to watch Minions, you know what? Okay, Johnny, we can watch Minions. That's fine. Zootopia. S tier. So easy S tier. They're going to make sequels. It wouldn't surprise me if they make a trilogy of these films. It's good. The world that they've built in it is so nuanced that you can have social commentary in it. And not only that can you have it, but they do it and do it well in Zootopia, in my opinion. Is it better than Toy Story 3? I don't think so, but it is a fantastic film with sharp dialogue. I think Jason Bateman does really well as the Fox character, and for all of those reasons, this is a masterpiece. If you haven't seen Zootopia for some reason, you got to go watch it ASAP. Lastly, we have Inside Out 2. I'm going to preface a couple of things before giving my opinion on Inside Out 2. The main antagonist of this film, it felt like, was anxiety. I don't have much anxiety, truthfully. I'm a person who tends not to worry about things I can't control that much. And so thus, if Pixar were to make Inside Out about my brain, anxiety would have a minimal role in the film. As a result, I couldn't resonate and relate to a lot of the themes that this story was telling. I wish that there was more of the parents. I thought that they were very, very funny and one of my favorite parts of the first film. I wish that Riley had more dynamics with them throughout and that she wasn't completely on her own throughout the events of this film. It felt short, which is a good thing, I guess, that the timing of it went by fast. It has to be a good film. And it's obviously the most successful animated film of all time now, which kind of is mind-blowing to me, truthfully, when I think about what this film is. I don't think it's as good as the first. I did not get emotional as nearly as much as the first film. I cried in Inside Out 1 when Bing Bong passed away, so there was none of those moments in this film for me. The ending as well didn't feel as tense. The stakes, it was just like, it was Riley running away from home is the stakes in the first one. And then the stakes in the third act of the second one was Riley not being, accepted by the new kids in her school on their hockey team. Like, there's levels to this. You got to understand my perspective in that. I don't think it's as good as the first Inside Out. Is this a bad film? No. Is it one I'm going to revisit soon? Also, no. So for those reasons, I can't put it in S tier. I feel like it's better than B tier, truthfully. It's got to be better than all of these films. It's definitely better than Minions. Minions is better. Minions is better than both of these films also, in my opinion. Is it better than Incredibles 2? Is Inside Out better than Incredibles 2? Oh, it's really tough. I think I'm going to keep it in A tier. And we'll keep the ranking as it is here. So how I'd rank to 12 is 12, 11, 10, 9, so on and so forth, all the way up to 1 here. Toy Story 4 could go above Frozen, but Frozen is great. I find it to be a really fun film, especially to watch in the wintertime. So this is my list here of these 4 tiers on the top in terms of billion-dollar animated movie tier list. How would you change them around? Where do you think that you should change, or I would have changed these things around to make it more accurate? And if you're still watching to this point in the video, I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Like the video. Subscribe as well to my channel. Check out a lot of the other tier lists about animated movies that I've posted. And I've got more tier lists coming soon, so be on the lookout for those. Comment if you have a tier list that you would want to see from me. And again, what were the changes that you would make to the list? Thank you so much. If you're still watching again, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.